Hey there.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello. Happy Sunday. Friends, lovers, thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir. I'm here with my co-host, Amy Nasir.
Hey.
My better half,
Nasir.
the prettier half of this combination. And today is Sunday, May 30th, 2021. Thank you for joining us. We are glad you are here. Sunday, May 30th, 2021. Time is flying. This is the 150th day of this, your best year yet, with just 215 days left to make it so. There are 209 shopping days until Christmas. Have you bought yourself a Christmas present yet? If not, make that happen. 154 days until Halloween.
Yay, 154.
And on this day, May 30th, in 1806, future President of the United States, Andrew Jackson, killed rival Charles Dickinson in a duel. The heck?
So uncivilized.
So uncivil. Well, we just saw Andrew Jackson on a horse in Jackson Square. Well, not him, but a marble version of him.
Life-size replica.
On May 30th, 1806, future President Andrew Jackson killed a man who accused him of cheating on a horse race bet and then insulted his wife, Rachel. What do you do when somebody accuses you of cheating and insults your wife?
You be like Howard Rourke and not like Cyrano de Bergerac.
That's right. Well, we talked about that before, the virtue of pride. You know, you've got to stick up for your values. But, yeah. A couple hundred years ago, what you would do is you would challenge somebody to, and it's interesting, he didn't get angry, pull out a pistol and shoot him. He challenged him to a duel. He engaged in this in a gentlemanly way. Contemporaries described Jackson, who had already served in Tennessee's Senate and was practicing law at the time of the duel, as argumentative, physically violent, fond of dueling to solve conflicts. You see, if he was that violent, why would he be engaged in duels? He would just go around beating people up and shooting them. So there was some civility to that. Estimates of the number of duels in which Jackson participated range from 5 to 100. Jackson and Dickinson were rival horse breeders and southern plantation owners with a long-standing hatred of one another. Dickinson accused Jackson of reneging on a horse bet, calling Jackson a coward and, what's worse than being a coward, an equivocator. Oh my gosh. Dickinson also...
What does this mean, equivocator?
I don't know. It's all the same to me. Dickinson also called Rachel Jackson a bigamist. It turns out Rachel had married Jackson, not knowing that her first husband had failed to finalize their divorce. It's the trouble that comes from marrying a divorcee. After the insult to Rachel and a statement published in the National Review, how long has that magazine been around? In which Dickinson called Jackson a worthless scoundrel and again a coward, Jackson challenged Dickinson to the duel, and on May 30th, 1806, they met at Harrison Mills on the Red River in Logan, Kentucky. Jackson was from all over, Tennessee, Kentucky, eventually Louisiana. At the first signal from their seconds, Dickinson fired. Jackson received Dickinson's first bullet in the chest, next to his heart. Jackson put his hand over the wound to staunch the flow of blood and stayed standing long enough to fire his gun. Dickinson's seconds, the man who was his assistant and handing the pistols out and stuff, claimed that Jackson's first shot misfired, which would have meant the duel was over. If it misfires, if your gun fails, your duel is over?
Okay.
Well, what happened was, in a breach of etiquette, according to the second,
Etiquette.
Jackson recocked the gun, pulled that trigger back again, and shot again, this time killing his opponent.
Now, is that by the rules or is that against the rules?
Well, apparently that's against the rules. If the trigger gets pulled and the hammer goes down and the gun doesn't fire properly, that's your shot.
Oh, man.
Although Jackson did recover from his wounds, he suffered chronic pain for the remainder of his life. Jackson was not prosecuted for murder, and the duel had very little effect on his successful campaign for the presidency in 1829.
Wow.
Many American men in the early 1800s viewed dueling as a time-honored tradition. As we know more famously from Hamilton, in 1804, Thomas Jefferson's Vice President Aaron Burr had also avoided murder charges after killing former Treasury Secretary and Founding Father Alexander Hamilton in a duel. This used to be normal. People used to do this. Instead of going out and shooting each other, they'd say, hey, let's get together and shoot at each other in order to resolve our conflict.
So in 2021, I put a link to water guns, high-powered water guns, both in the YouTube chat and the Facebook chat. So if anybody wants to have a duel...
If you want to duel, let's duel with water guns. I don't know, what's worse, to have these duels like this, or for somebody to just go out and take a swing at somebody, or a shot at somebody? So
like a big club over the head.
You know, what qualifies for gentlemanly behavior changes over time, but it's an interesting phenomenon to me. There was a clubhouse chat, and we're going to get back to this.
Is that an uncivilized clubhouse chat?
It was an uncivilized clubhouse chat, and talking about self-defense.
Oh.
And there are people who grew up without male role models that don't understand fisticuffs. And these days now, the fisticuffs, boxing, hitting each other with your fists, no longer even counts, because now it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, right.
It was very funny to hear the host of this talk kind of poo-poo the idea of Taekwondo and Karate and...
Shotokan, Tangsudo.
Nothing counts anymore. You're a fool if you're doing anything except Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Apparently that's the only proper self-defense anymore, and I'm sure dueling would also be considered foolhardy in that regard. I thought that was funny. But it changes. Those of us who were brought up without male role models never learned proper fisticuffs. So one of the early fist fights I got in at school, I gave this poor kid a bloody nose because I didn't know that there were supposed to be rules and proper behavior, and you only hit people so hard. You're not trying to kill the guy, you're just trying to get him to submit. And again, without male role models, I didn't know that. To me, you fight until the other guy's dead. Or quits. Or what, I don't know. I guess I didn't really have any sense of where it goes. That's why the argument, when they bring a knife to the fight, you bring a gun. To me, it was always a matter of there's no knowing when the escalation stops. So this idea that, well, let's have a duel, and we'll have seconds, and we'll have firearms, and we'll have gentlemen's rules regarding how those firearms are going to be used. I don't know. I kind of like that. Even though I guess there's probably like gentlemen's rules in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu too.
Yes. Chris Land says MMA, that's the multi-level marketing fighting?
Multi-level marketing, no, mixed martial arts.
Right.
It's the Amway of fighting. No, in MMA.
Yeah, it used to attract all kinds of disciplines, but it turns out one is most successful, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I wonder what comes next.
Yeah, what comes next after
because
Brazilian
it's great
Jiu-Jitsu?
that everybody thinks Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is it, and maybe it is it right now, but something else will come next. And 5 years from now, people will be laughing at anybody still studying Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Just like nowadays, if you say that you're paleo.
All the kids will be like, that's so 2021.
Yeah, I'm paleo. What do you mean you're paleo? You should be carnivore. Or, whatever comes next. Something always comes next. So, yes, on this day in history, poor Charles Dickinson was mowed down by the gentleman Andrew Jackson. I like the story, too, because Jackson is such a mixed figure in history.
Yeah.
So when we went to Jackson Square in New Orleans last week, is that now a week before last, it was kind of strange to see a statue of him up there. Hasn't been torn down yet, even though this is in the South, and it is Andrew Jackson. And a quote on the statue of Jackson declaring that the Union must never be torn apart.
Right.
Which is strange, since she eventually went on to support the segregated South. So Jackson is an interesting character. Also, today, May 30th, on this day we can celebrate, although he's passed away, the director Howard Hawks, one of my favorite directors, produced some of my favorite films. So happy birthday, Howard Hawks, the director of Rio Bravo, and His Girl Friday, and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, and one of my all-time favorite movies, Only Angels Have Wings. We've recommended that one before. If you haven't yet seen Only Angels Have Wings, make that happen. That is a winner for you.
Jean Arthur? No, wait.
Yeah, Jean Arthur and
and
yes,
the
Cary
one
Grant.
Cary Grant, yes, yes, very, very good, very good.
And Rita Hayworth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Rita
so-
Hayworth, yeah.
So yeah, Only Angels Will Have Wings, a must-see. And it was fun. That first time I saw that was at an Objectivist conference, Conceptual Conferences in 1990.
It was recommended by Shoshana Milgram, I
That's
believe.
right. She held an after-hours event. It wasn't officially part of the curriculum, but she talked about why it was her favorite film, or one of her I think it was her favorite film, what she loved about the film, and all of the lessons that you get from this film.
I'd love to hear that.
And the great thing is that when you watch this movie, it's there's a fair amount of action, and there's some conflict, and some people don't survive through the end of the film. And she shows how most of the bad things, or all of the bad things that happen, all of the unfortunate things, even the accidents,
Yes.
are a result of people choosing not to follow the rational leadership of the protagonist.
True.
And people letting their emotions get the best of them. And in some ways it's very obvious, in some other ways it's very subtle. Great film, great characters, inspiring, and the kind of film you watch and you think, I want life to be more like that, and I want to be more like that. So, Only Angels Have Wings, give that one a watch. Finally, today is the last day of Safe Sun Week. So apparently we've got a whole national week, a holiday, devoted to being safe in the sun. Well, I can tell you, Amy and I, and the folks who saw last week's podcast, but especially the folks who saw the Thursday edition of Life on Earth, my other YouTube show that's in conjunction with Ayn Rand Centre UK. Folks who saw that know that we were a little beat down, a little lower energy than usual,
Yeah.
a little, man, we were hammered. I got
Recovering.
hit with, I don't know what it was, everything.
Yeah.
The sunburn and the lethargy from the vacation, coming back. And
Yeah, because we fit so much into our vacation. We were so very active and walked, I don't know how many miles.
yeah, I was
Got
going to mention this at
sunburns.
the end of the show, but I'll mention it here because it's coming up. I've been acting lately like Percy Blakely from,
Who's that?
isn't it funny how a title just zing right out of my mind, The Scarlet Pimpernel.
Oh, yes, yes.
And I've been feeling like Percy Blakely from The Scarlet, except for not the heroic Percy Blakely that you eventually find out about. No, I've been feeling like the fop Percy Blakely, who says in the film, dear lady, I've just been to Bath. Bath, England, where you would go to recover, go on vacation, whatever. I've just been to Bath to be cured of the fatigue. And now I'm so fatigued by the cure, I really think I shall have to go to Bath again. And that's how I've been feeling ever since getting back from New Orleans. I've got allergies and some kind of weird... I felt so sick yesterday that I actually went to get a drive-in, drive-through, drive-by COVID test.
Yeah. Whoop, up the nose.
Oh, my God. I don't know if it's worse if they do it to you. It was self-administered. They said, stick this on,
All the way
stick
back
this
to
in
your
your
brain.
nose an inch, and you don't go up. You're supposed to go straight back.
Yeah.
Stick it in there 1 inch, basically until you feel it stop, and then swish it around for 15 seconds. And then take it out, and the same swab, stick it in your other nostril and do the same thing. What? You crazy? So I did that. Of course the test was negative. I expected the test to be negative. But it was my dear darling daughter's birthday party yesterday.
Yes.
I felt sick as a dog, and I didn't think I would be able to make it. But if I was going to make it, I wanted to be 100%. I don't know why I'm counting here. How do you do 100% in your hand? 100% certain that I did not have the Rona.
The Rona.
So, man,
Yes.
what a week. What a week.
Yeah.
So on top of all that, sunburn.
Yes.
So it is National Safe Sun Week.
Oh, very good. I can be assured to try to put on more sunscreen. I took a 50 level SPF spray-on sunscreen down to New Orleans. Big mistake. I needed like the really, really thick coating because I ended up getting sunburn, especially on the back of my neck, and it was awful.
You were really sunburned on the back of your neck.
It's healing.
That
though,
was
but,
hot.
So
I mean,
hot.
literally hot.
Really hot, yeah. But we came back, and last Wednesday, it got down to like 45 degrees as the high.
Yeah, that's another thing that made us feel rotten, was going from 80 degrees to 40 degrees. And
was just so
I think
bad.
that triggered all these allergies.
And then you've got
just,
cottonwood and all these pollens and all these allergens out
the
here.
plants have no idea what to do with it, so they just start shedding pollen and crud.
Yeah, they're just being orgasmic.
Anyway,
as
why are we
plants
complaining?
do.
I feel like we're complaining about the weather. Anyway, yes.
Yeah.
National Safe Sun Week. Put on that sunscreen, like Kurt Vonnegut said. Except the funny thing is, Kurt Vonnegut never said that, and I only found that out recently. The old speech that used to go around the internet, it turns out it wasn't his. Here, I'll give you the quick version of this here. Mary Schmitch. That would be a tough name to grow up with.
Mary
S-C-H-M-I-C-H. Mary Schmitch.
My name is Miss Smitch.
Miss Schmitch. Excuse me, Miss Schmitch. Chicago Tribune columnist and Brenda Starr cartoonist.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't read Brenda Starr very often. I didn't know Mary Schmitch wrote that. Wrote a column entitled Advice Like Youth. Well, she's a woman. It wouldn't be in that voice, would it? Advice like youth, probably just wasted on the young. Oh, okay. Well, that's a heck of a title. But everybody now knows it by the first line, which is, wear sunscreen.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen of class of 97, wear sunscreen. That's the biggest advice.
If you grew up in the 1990s, and I certainly did grow up in the... I was already old by the 1990s, but I was certainly still growing up. If you grew up in the 1990s, these words may sound familiar, and you would be absolutely right. Australian film director Baz Luhrmann used the essay in its entirety in his 1998 album, Something for Everybody, turning it into a hit single called Everybody's Free to Wear Sunscreen. With spoken word lyrics over a mellow backing track, the song was an unexpected worldwide hit, reaching number 45 in the Billboard Hot 100 in the United States and number 1 in the UK. The thing is, Luhrmann and his team did not realize that Smitch was the actual author until they sought out permission to use the lyrics. They believed it had been written by, we all remember the email that used to go around, written by Kurt Vonnegut. For Smitch, the sunscreen controversy was just one of those stories that reminds you of the lawlessness of cyberspace, unquote. While no one knows the originator of the urban legend, the story goes that Kurt Vonnegut's wife had received an email in early '97 that purported to reprint a commencement speech Vonnegut had given at MIT this year. I won't read the rest of the story, but if you're one of those people who associates that long email with all sorts of life advice with Kurt Vonnegut, no, it was a Chicago Tribune article by Mary Smitch.
Yes, we are tipping the scales of justice for Ms. Smitch.
Here's a little bit of the text just to remind you. Ladies and gentlemen of the class of 97, wear sunscreen. If I could offer you only one tip for the future, sunscreen would be it. The long-term benefits of sunscreen have been proved by scientists, whereas the rest of my advice has no basis more reliable than my own meandering experience. I will dispense this advice now. Enjoy the power and beauty of your youth. Never mind. You will not understand the power and beauty of your youth until they've faded, but trust me, in 20 years you'll look back at photos of yourself and recall, in a way you can't grasp now, how much possibility lay before you and how fabulous you really looked. You are not as fat as you imagine. Don't worry about the future. Oh, worry, but know that worrying is about as effective as trying to solve an algebra equation by chewing bubblegum. The real troubles in your life are apt to be things that never crossed your worried mind, the kind that blindside you at 4 p.m. on some idle Tuesday. Do one thing every day that scares you. Sing. Don't be reckless with other people's heart. And it goes on like this. It's a couple pages long. There's a link in the show notes. It's worth a read because there is all sorts of good wisdom in there. And I like the variation on advice I've given before, which is enjoy how you look and feel right now, because in 10 years you won't believe how good you looked and how good you felt. So yes. She gives a version of that for 20 years. But seriously,
DNA breakdown.
Breakdown. And life, whatever. But think about how you looked 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So for me, that would be at age 47. And I look at myself at age 47 and I think, I looked pretty good, and yet I remember at 47 thinking, man, I need to, whatever, get in shape or lose weight or dye my hair or whatever the thing was.
Well, of course, my looks never change because I wear sunscreen and stay out of the sun.
Well, you always look good. But that's why, that's why I always look the same every show we do.
We have Jose and Narendra. Hey, guys.
Outstanding.
They can get as much sun as they want without having any problems whatsoever.
I'm sure.
You're so lucky.
Excuse me.
I'm so
I need
jelly.
a cough button. I need to hit the mute button when I cough like that.
I'll just talk over it.
It's been a coffee kind of week. That's why I'm drinking coffee. So, this morning,
Yes.
Nikos Soterakopoulos.
Opa.
Opa. That's right. Nikos of the Ayn Rand Centre UK was discussing on their members-only session on productivity. So if you want to hear these productivity sessions, you've got to join the Ayn Rand Centre UK, link in the show notes. But during the session on productivity, he was discussing the Dale Carnegie book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. A valuable book. Everybody should read that at some point in their lifetime, even though it's philosophically mixed.
Sure.
A little.
But that's why it's important to study philosophy, so that you can be a philosophical detective.
Detective. Detector.
Detector.
Unlike a corrector. We have one of those we can call on.
Yes.
So Nikos Soterakopoulos was discussing Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and at one point he contrasted Carnegie's pragmatic approach with Jocko Willink's extreme ownership.
Okay.
And he didn't say much about it, so I had to look that up.
Jocko
Willink. I've mentioned Jocko Willink before.
Willink.
He's a former Navy SEAL.
All right.
Went into business consulting using the ideas he learned as a Navy SEAL. We'll talk about that. And eventually became a podcast host himself from hanging out with people like Tim Ferris.
All right.
So what I did at that point, I thought, wait, extreme ownership. What did we talk about last time? When we talk about Gail Winan's perspective when he buys an ashtray, when he owns something, anything that he owns.
Yes.
So I had to look that up. Jocko Willink and Leif Babin's book, Extreme Ownership, How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win. So you can see why I immediately thought of the recent episode in which we discussed ownership in both the empowering sense of responsibility and agency, which you get from this book, and the Rourke sense of embracing and affirming, that which you say yes to, in the sense of the Fountainhead. Well, I've read the Fountainhead before, of course, so naturally I had to get a copy of the Jocko Willink book. In fact, I'll read the quote from the Fountainhead. I'm going to read the short version. I read the long version twice now, last Sunday and on Thursday. But remember, Gail Winan said, "It's strange. I am the most offensively possessive man on earth. I do something to things. Let me pick up an ashtray from a dime store counter, pay for it, and put it in my pocket, and it becomes a special kind of ashtray, unlike any on earth, because it's mine. It's an extra quality in the thing, like a sort of halo. I feel that about everything I own. From my overcoat to the oldest linotype in the compositing room, to the copies of the banner on newsstands, to this penthouse, to my wife. And I've never wanted to own anything as much as I want this house you're going to build for me." He's talking to Howard Rourke. "Howard, I will probably be jealous of Dominique living in it. I can be quite insane about things like that, and yet I don't feel that I'll own it, because no matter what I do or say, it's still yours. It will always be yours." And then Howard Rourke answers him back, "It has to be mine. But in another sense, Gail, you own that house and everything else I've built. You own every structure you've stopped before and heard yourself answering." In what sense? In the sense of that personal answer. What you feel in the presence of a thing you admire is just one word: yes. The affirmation, the acceptance, the sign of admittance. And that yes is more than an answer to one thing. It's a kind of amen to life, to the earth that holds this thing, to the thought that created it, to yourself for being able to see it. But the ability to say yes or no is the essence of all ownership. It's your ownership of your own ego, your soul, if you wish. Your soul has a single basic function, the act of valuing. Yes or no, I wish or I do not wish. You can't say yes without saying I. There's no affirmation without the one who affirms. In this sense, everything to which you grant your love is yours. So that's the sense in which I talk about ownership as affirmation. But when Nikos talked about the Jocko Willink and Leif Babin book, I always forget the second author's name, but when he talked about extreme ownership, I thought, well, there's some additional insights, and not only that, but of course somebody beat me to the punch, as they always do. So you never get, well, I shouldn't say never, so you sometimes don't get original ideas from us, you just get our unique take on them. So I wanted to go through extreme ownership real quick, and there are 12 key takeaways that will be real fast to review.
Okay, there are comments, just so you know. So,
good.
Yeah.
So before I get into the 12 key takeaways from Jocko Willink and Leif Babin's book, Extreme Ownership, what have folks had to say in the comments? Because I've been reading more than I've been reading the comments.
Oh, many things.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, Jose.
Nothing urgent, because we can take a break, or we can go through and then go back to them.
Yeah, let's go through this, and
okay,
then we can
so
get
real
to your
quick,
comments.
key takeaways from extreme ownership. And again, this refers back to both the conversation we had last Sunday, and if you heard it, the Life on Earth show on Thursday. Number 1, leaders must demonstrate, remember this is a book a lot about leadership, but this is going to apply to more than that. Leaders must demonstrate extreme ownership with everything they have responsibility over. And I just love this. The attitude should be, it's on me. I'm responsible. The buck stops here. I take ownership. Number 2, a team is only as good as its leader. The effects of good leadership are infectious. You have to read the chapter to see all the implications of that, but that's good. Number 3, leaders are responsible for making sure that everyone on the team understands the purpose of their mission. And I love that too. We've done a whole episode on purpose, on knowing what it is you're there for, what you're trying to achieve, what you in this moment right now are hoping to get out of this experience. And number 4, leaders must be sure their egos and the egos of team members do not interfere with the team's objectives. Well, that just got interesting. What do you mean by egos? And I think what's meant in this context, I think it's obvious, is not ego in the positive sense, ego in the sense of your mind, your spirit, your consciousness, but simply ego in the sense of secondhand concern about how others are judging you,
Right.
of posturing, that kind of false sense of pride. Number 5, SEAL teams practice cover and move within their team and across teams, which is the practice of giving each other support to achieve each other's objectives. Now, I love this when I've talked about the division of labor society, when I've talked about you're surrounded by miracles. That's how this happens, is precisely that our efforts are coordinated and amplified and multiplied. So I love that that's a big one in the book. He gives a longer explanation of that I won't get into, but if you read the book, you'll see. Cover and move, support to achieve each other's objectives. Number 6, plans and principles should be simple to ensure that they are understandable by everybody involved and easy to communicate. A plan that is unnecessarily complicated is more likely to fail. And again, I'm a big advocate of plans and also a big advocate of writing things down. Know explicitly. Don't just carry stuff in your head, as David Allen would say in Getting Things Done. Your head is not a good place to carry information or plans or timetables or schedules. Put that stuff on paper. Externalize, externalize, externalize.
I like the part about make sure it's a plan that is unnecessarily complicated.
That's
is
right.
more likely to fail.
It should only be as complicated as it needs to be. The simpler, the better.
Yeah.
Occam's razor. Number 7, in a chaotic combat or working environment, a leader must prioritize the most important things to accomplish and organize team members to execute that priority without distractions. The team can then move on to the next priority. Now, what did we talk about when we talked about Andrew Bernstein and his lecture on how to become an impassioned valuer? You need, and again, it's got to be on paper, it's got to be out of your head and out in the world, you need an ordered value hierarchy. And you should always know what your top 3 values are so that you are not being distracted by lower values or non-values to the exclusion or to the detriment of your achievements in those top 3 values. Mm-hmm. So I love that too. An effective leader, number 8, an effective leader decentralizes command, delegates responsibilities to junior members of the team, and trains them in leadership, and trusts in their decision-making processes.
I like that one.
We, as individualists, as people who understand the importance of thinking independently, mm-hmm. we don't get as much philosophical training on teamwork, on cooperation, on the division of labor, on hierarchies in that sense. Mm-hmm. It's out there, but we do tend to kind of emphasize, you've got to think independently before you can do anything for anybody else. You've got to think for yourself.
Yes.
So I like the reminder. An effective leader decentralizes and delegates and trains and trusts. Number 9, a thoroughly detailed plan that every team member understands is vital to mission success. A good plan accounts for all likely risks and allows for flexibility. So again, just like number 6, planning is everything. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. Willink doesn't say that. That's an old expression. Number 10, a leader is responsible not just for ensuring the team is informed, but also communicating with their own leaders to ensure that they have all the information they need so that everyone is comfortable with and fully aware of operations. So yes, communicate. We've talked about mind reading, especially in romantic relationships. Mind reading is not recommended because it doesn't exist. So there is a kind of kernel of truth to it in the sense of understanding your partner's body language and yes.
look on their face. They may be thinking possibly, but that's a guess.
And we do it because it does happen. Eventually your partner finishes your sentences. They know what you like. There's all sorts of ways in which we mind read. The problem comes in when we think, darn it, he should know what I want, or darn it, she should know what I want to do for dinner, or he should know the kinds of things I like, and she should... Yeah, that kind of mind reading, not recommended. So yes, communicate.
Cynthia says, clarity is kindness.
Clarity is kindness. Love that. Well, and she's a coach. She would know. The best thing you can do for somebody is make your expectations clear and let them know what you're actually thinking. Yeah, mind reading can be a poison. So, number 11. So we're almost done with these 12. I said it would be quick. Read the book if you want the 10-hour version. Number 11, when a situation involves uncertainty, leaders must be willing to make a decisive choice based on whether they know enough about the situation. That may be a safe choice or a drastic change. Remember, I've talked about coin flipping. There are times when you've gathered all of the information that you could possibly get. Again, this is not Willink. This is our version, my version of this. There are times when you've gathered all the information you can, and you have to make a decision, and the decision you have to make, you don't have the information to make it conclusively or to make it with certainty. And the answer at that point is make it based on what you know. And if you've weighed everything out and you've got 2 or even 3 alternatives that are equally weighted, you simply can't decide, flip a coin and then commit to that result. That's not non-objective. That is a way of taking an equally weighted option and making it objective. Get it out there in the world. A flip of a coin can do that for you. And leaders are willing to do that. If they have to make a decision and there's not enough information on which to make that decision, but it's got to be made, make that decision and then commit to it. I like Tony Robbins' way of putting that is decide things and be able to walk away from the decision saying, this is what I've decided to do, and if it's a mistake, this is the mistake I'm committed to making. Love that. And then finally, number 12. Mm-hmm. Disciplined habits provide freedom in the form of more time, more confidence, and a better model for team members. So we did a whole episode on habits. I called it a preview because we need to revisit that, and we will. Disciplined habits provide freedom in the form of more time, more confidence, and a better model for team members. Again, once you've decided, and especially once you've established a habit, once you've got a routine you can stick to, now you're free to use your willpower and to use your psychological energy to progress, to move forward, to think about other things, to make other decisions. This goes back to the discussions we've had about Jean Moroney Binswanger's talks about free will and decision making. And she's a great resource for that. If that's an area in which you think you could use more resources, Jean Moroney Binswanger can't be beat in that regard. A Google search will turn up her website, Thinking Directions.
For those 12 and for Thinking Directions, is that going to be a link on the show notes?
Link in the show notes.
Very good.
Yes. And the show notes will be posted to this video, both on YouTube and on Facebook, right after the episode.
Well, I think it's about time to go ahead and look at the comments.
So what have folks been saying?
Yeah.
I usually watch the chat all the way through, and I've kind of been bulldozing through this one.
Yes.
It's just because I didn't want to run over long.
I know, because I have a few things to say as well today, too. So, but real quick, but before we do, I just want to remind everybody, we do support all of our patrons, or we love having support from our patrons, and if you would like to become one, you're welcome to go to patreon.com/Robert Nasir, I believe. And,
or paypal.me/ actually paypal.me/Robert Nasir is the one-time contribution link. Both of those links are at robertnasir.com.
Yes, robertnasir.com. You'll find those links there, and we really appreciate it. Appreciate going over to YouTube, giving us a like, subscribe, share, however.
Subscribes. Amy is the marketer, and she's so much better at this. I never remember this stuff. Amy is so much better than me. But yes,
so anyway,
if you could go to, even if you're watching on Facebook, go to youtube.com/Robert Nasir just to give the episode a like. We really need your support because, again, we'll get hundreds of views on Facebook and we'll get dozens of views on YouTube. And unfortunately, we need to flip that around. We need it the other way around.
Yes.
So we can grow this show like crazy and everybody can have as much fun reading your comments as we do.
So I'm going to go ahead and go from newest to oldest. And I apologize if I'm saying some of these comments in a way that is not contextual.
Oh, yeah. Well, we got to remember. Yeah, well, usually when somebody says, that's 100% right, and it's got a timestamp on it, but I can't remember what I said at that time.
So we
oh, you mean when I was giving myself compliments? Yes, you're right.
Considering there's about like a 1 or maybe 2 minute, maybe 1 minute delay.
Oh, yeah, there's latency too.
Yeah. So, goodness. Okay, so I'm just going to read the ones that I think I understand.
Are they that complicated this time around?
Well, I just wanted to be sure that I know what people are talking about before I do this.
Okay. Well, I just got a message too that there's a 60 cycle hum coming through. Now that's interesting because everything looks different this time on my meters, on my various meters, and I wonder if something got knocked out of whack. Well, you go ahead. Read some of the interesting comments, and I'm just going to screw around with the technical stuff.
Well, thank you very much, Jose. A little compliment to you, Robert. He says, the first time I heard of Robert, I believe, is through from Uran. He's so knowledgeable and wise, I had no clue he existed. Amazing. That's wonderful. Jim just says, remember how he said that certain signs in the river could tell you whether there was a snag between the surface or the water was too shallow to ride over, things like that. Similarly, I can read someone's mind, it's about mind reading, by looking for signs in what they say or don't say, in their body language, of their ideas and thoughts and feelings. Very good.
Yeah, I love, and there are all sorts of interesting resources for reading body language. You can even go as far as like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. The problem is that those aren't actually that reliable. So even though they're useful as clues, they're really just the start of an inquiry into what somebody's telling you with their body or with their language.
Very true, very true. Narendra, hey Narendra, good morning. So he gives us some good advice, some general advice here. Trust the power of others. I believe this is with regard to the division of labor and all of that, and teamwork and the power of that. But be individualistic, have respect and belief for other people, and focus on the meaning of your work and joy, and finding joy in your mission for working like that. So then we've got Jose. He says, I'm in a big park And there's a boy on a guitar who is currently singing Jolene. So
Whoa.
That is so nice.
I love it because
what a wonderful scene.
It would seem unusual to have a man singing Dolly Parton's Jolene, except the White Stripes did such a nice version of that.
Oh, yes.
That really worked for me.
Jose reminds us of a Friedrich Nietzsche quote. My formula for happiness, says Nietzsche, a yes, a no, a straight line, a goal. How very nice. That may have been maybe a little bit of inspiration from that Ayn Rand used with her understanding of Nietzsche. And I believe that relates back to what Howard Rourke said about having a goal as a straight line as opposed to zigzag lines all over the place. I don't know if you remember that part in The Fountainhead, how he described having a goal. Yeah, well,
since we're doing comments real quick, I have to say that the man who usually corrects our errors of speech and ideas and thought and things just corrected our error of audio. Apparently, source audio was low. Some of you may have heard a low hum, a 60 cycle type hum in the background, and it seems like the gain on the mic was turned down. Maybe happened when moving the equipment around to set up this time.
Yes,
so anyway, thank you, John, for improving everybody's audio experience a bit.
Very
I'll
good.
play around with that some more after the show and figure out what's going on and if we need to tweak it some more because, some of you out there are listening on really nice sound systems with subwoofers. So, if you've got the bass turned up in the background, that's not cool.
So about having duels, Jim says, I don't need a pistol. I just bore my opponent to death. My life story works every time.
I know that feeling. I've used
good.
that strategy.
And Linda Cordair of Cordair.com says,
Cordair.com.
Says, hi, kids. And so I said, hi, Mom.
Kids.
And,
hi, kids. That's it. Hi, kids. Is that just so we would say Cordair.com? Because the finest art is at Cordair.com.
Yes,
Does she think we're going to make a big spiel every time she says hi? Does she think we're going to keep saying Cordair.com?
Well, not just that.
Have you visited Cordair.com?
But I really got to say, there are some extremely hardworking, innovative, and creative people who are artists there who have their work in the galleries at Napa and also Jackson, Wyoming. They're two art galleries for your convenience. And they also do online sales and such. And they also have a Club Cordair for those people who want to save up some money for a particular piece. It's really wonderful. It's really great to support these artists because these artists are representational, they're life affirming, they're reality based, they're understandable, and it really gives you more of a direct connection to values in your life. Whereas, say, other artists perhaps don't. And,
it's funny that Jonathan Honig, who you might know from the Fox Business Channel, and, he's on CNN Business. Anyway, everybody in Objectivism knows who Jonathan Honig is. He was doing a weekly objective show on Clubhouse today, and he talked about this recent art auction where an invisible sculpture sold for $18,000. Now, it's so invisible that even if you pass your hand, you can't feel anything there.
Sounds like
the only real
fundraising
proof that there's a sculpture there is the certificate provided by the artist saying, oh yeah, there's an invisible sculpture there. And yes, it sold for $18,000.
All that is fundraising or a donation, really. I mean, that's all that is.
It's like the sculpture equivalent of John Cage's 433.
Yes.
And yet, somebody paid $18,000 for it. Now, nobody really pays it. See, one of the things I got on the conversation and said, nobody really believes that stuff or believes in that stuff. I'm sure they're doing it either for the shtick or for the avant-gardeness of it all, and probably just for the publicity.
It's the absurdity.
So it's
as a very deep deep description of life today and the cognitive dissonance.
So I don't worry too much about the people who do it because it's funny, or because it's wry and sort of a cultural commentary. But I do worry that there are out and out nihilists out there who use it as a way of laughing at or spitting at real art.
Yeah, that's not cool.
So whenever I see things like that, I told Jonathan at the time, I kind of have both reactions of, I see the clever thing they're trying to do, and I don't know how much nihilism is behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, we're a quarter to the hour here. Should I jump in, or do you want to continue?
You should absolutely. Well, let me take a look at my notes here.
Okay. All right.
No, you should because I don't want to run out of time.
Okay.
And I know that you really want to address an issue because it's affecting a lot of people.
It is relevant for this time period in our lives.
This question of as the pandemic, as COVID-19 dies down, people are disoriented or
experiencing emotions that they're not entirely sure where they're coming from.
So what did you come across, or what have you been thinking about?
So about a month or two ago, I felt this. I felt a certain anxiety or nervousness with regard to opening up my life and rejoining the world. So there are a lot of questions here I wrote down that might be helpful for you to do a self-reality check, do some introspecting or self-monitoring. And so these are just my own questions. I just blurted out in my own sort of introspective way, as I do. So these are my questions to myself. Have I changed or grown in the last year and 2 months? Because this gives me a little bit of insecurity with regard to, this is not my life as it normally has been. Have I actually learned anything new? Did I experience anything new? Have I used my time wisely? Am I experiencing guilt or, low self-esteem because I don't feel like I've actually used my time well? And I'm proud to say I think I did pretty good. I think I did pretty good. Another question is, have I just acted like a potted plant? Have I just, have I been active despite the pandemic limitations? Have I, tried to be creative with all of this craziness that's been going on? Yes, pretty much for me. Have I gained weight? And am I blaming it on the circumstances of this past year? I would say yes and no. So yes, I've gained some pounds. I don't think it's necessarily because of this last year in the pandemic, COVID pounds. I don't think it's that. I think it's just a matter of, actually I gained a lot of muscle this last year, and I'm really proud of that. So I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it's just where I'm at. And that's okay.
Oh, yeah, you've been doing the couch to standing workouts now for almost half a year.
Well, it's going to be August is my time. That's my 1 year anniversary.
1 year. Oh, yeah. So it's 3/4 of a year now.
So,
so yes, if you've gained any weight, it's in muscle mass.
Yeah, it is. So another question is, can I handle being around people and being more social? And am I anxious about this? Well, that's a really great question. I think a lot of people are feeling this right now. Things are opening up. People are becoming vaccinated. It's a very strange situation, but we'll get more into that. As always, these are questions you should be asking. I ask myself as much as I possibly can. Should I be exercising more? Should I be journaling more? How is my sleeping? How is my eating? So all of those are basic self-care things, but they really do pack an impact if you're not, if you have an opportunity to do better with that. Let's see. How deeply did I feel grief or depression this past year? This is a really important question. And has it affected me now? Has it changed me in any way? Has it changed my perspective on life, my outlook on life? And if it has, in a negative way, will I be able to recover? It's very, very deep questions, things you really definitely need to ask yourself. This is this is actually one of the things that I really felt recently. Is my mental health still yet to be affected? Will some as yet unknown realization hit me hard down the line? Is that
a common anxiety people have right about now?
Well, it definitely is for me, and I think it is for a lot of people that I have seen. And it is definitely a question. There's this fear of the unknown. That's really what I felt a month or two ago. This fear of the unknown, like things are going to open up. How am I going to deal with all of this? Will I have to go back to work? And is it going to be a hybrid situation? now my work right now is they've made it very explicit that if you're fully vaccinated, which I am, you can now go back to work without a mask. But I work in the office, so they haven't actually said anything specifically to me or to my team about going back to work. So that's like, that brings me a lot of stress right now. And I just don't exactly know how I feel about it. I kind of want to, not really, but I don't know. It's one of those things I need to journal about. Right now, I'm anxious about having people back over our house. I've spent the last year feeling a bit like a failure because I haven't kept up on the house cleaning as much as I have in the past. And I've been focusing on all the things that couldn't be fixed, that we haven't yet fixed. There's things that need to be painted, things that need to be touched up, carpet or flooring that needs to be replaced. And now this is all just kind of freaking me out a little bit. And I know that like in the corners over here and over there, and there's just so much dust. I'm like, oh my gosh. But I got to tell you, I had a lot of anxiety with regard to packing for New Orleans. But I'm very proud and happy to say that that all worked out. I had everything that I needed in New Orleans. I just, it was just fine. And all that worry wasn't unnatural. It was natural and it was common and it was normal and all that. But it turned out that I didn't really need to worry. So that was wonderful. So I know at this point I will keep having these stressors, all these things that are stressing me. Each time I, go out and I rejoin the world a little bit, more and more. And each time I get through it, it will be another victory over my feeling anxious about it. And I will eventually build back my confidence. So that's perspective that I need to keep in mind. It's going to be small steps. It's going to be continuous. And so basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be journaling more often. I'm going to keep exercising. I'm going to keep trying to monitor what I eat better. And then but no, seriously, I need to do that. I need to stuff my face full of nutrients, not chocolate.
Well, since I do most of the cooking and shopping, I need to be a better resource for you on that.
Thank you, darling. But I'm also going to find ways to take small vacations, small opportunities to put myself back out to the world. Take myself on a little artist date or something like that whenever I can. And I'm also going to check in with my friends that I haven't talked to in a while and just see what's, where they are at with all of this in mind. And one other thing is that about those who are still on the fence about vaccines. The one thing I've learned is that those who are not wanting to get the vaccine, there is probably much more going on in their minds than the general ideas of being anti-vaccine or however, or worrying about side effects or however. So all of these self-monitoring questions that I've just gone over are probably stirring in their minds as well. We're all living in the same reality here right now, and well, we always do anyway, because there's only one reality. But I really think that these are in their minds as well. So when I talk to my friends, I'm going to keep that in mind, that these questions are probably in there, and they still are trying to figure out a way to rejoin the world. And that these questions are probably playing a part in their decision to open back up to the world. It may not just be a fear of side effects or, anti-vax ideas or however. It's the whole package of opening yourself back up to the world. And it can be a very scary prospect and very disorienting. Yes. Oh, and I just want to put this out there. There is a I was looking at I was Googling free mental health or free therapy sessions or something like that. And there are some really good articles and resources out there online. There is, of course, there's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, which is 1-800-273-8255, or the crisis text line by texting HOME to 741-741. So I just want to put that out there. Not that any of you are thinking that way, but if you know anybody who does, that is a resource. But, again, there's so many questions here and so many things that we need to face and things we need to ask ourselves in a kind and gentle way. And we need to feel it out, take small steps, be kind and gentle to ourselves. And I hope that you are being friendly towards yourself with regard to all of this. There you have it.
Very good. Yes, so for this week, because again, it's been a challenging week, coming through all of the, whatever it was, allergies and sunburn and being run down and all the things that we talked about. So for this week, what I'm going to do is get back on track. That's my homework for the week, is to get back on track. So I'm going to revisit and reapply my updated morning routine, get back on track with my routine. I'm going to review the James Clear book, Atomic Habits, and our podcast episode, which followed my initial reading of the book. Link to both of those will be in the show notes. And then I'm going to, just for fun, I'm going to reread this Youth is Wasted, Wear Sunscreen article. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to post one item from it, one of those bits of advice, each day this week on Facebook and on Twitter, with or without, probably with, my own personal commentary on it. That should be a bit of fun and also help me to straighten up and fly right. That's what here, I'll hold that up. That's what my Post-it note for the week says, is straighten up and fly right. A weird expression that I only heard later in life, but I really like now. Straighten up and fly right. That's what my Post-it note on my mirror will say this week, to remind me, come on, get it together, Nasir. Because I've been acting again like Percy Blakely, like the fop. And that's not good. It's fun, but it's not good. I need to be more like Rick in Casablanca. How did that come up? Well, we're going to have a fun discussion about Casablanca.
Yes.
But that's for a future episode, so that's what I've got for you this week. It's been a good week, but it's been a crazy week, kind of a wild week. And we're just getting back into things. The weather is finally turning around again, and we're looking forward to the remainder of spring and then getting into summer next month. And Father's Day is coming up, so all you fathers out there, I hope you've got some fatherly things planned. All of you who have fathers out there, make sure you plan something. Anybody who hasn't got a father or isn't a father, just send me some money. So that would be cool too. Ha ha! Just
you can adopt
kidding, of course.
Robert as
you could adopt
your
me.
dad.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to adopt me as their mom, I'm very much open to that.
I thought you just got an adoptive mother.
Yes.
Now you want to be somebody else's
mother?
mother?
Well, she can be a grandmother, I suppose. I think she's already.
This is getting complicated. So, with that said, I'm just going to thank you for joining us. There were a couple other comments I answered in print and not online, although Jose had asked about Detroit pizza and asked the question, is it as good as Windsor pizza? See, since this is his first time listening to the show, he hasn't heard me talk about that. But one of the things about 2021, and I don't mean this year, I mean this time in history.
Yeah.
We talked about benevolence and beneficence. We've talked about how we are surrounded by miracles, not least of which is ourselves. Part of my evidence for that is that in 2021, you have things we didn't have when I was young. We have deep dish pizza available by pizza delivery.
Yeah.
Now in Detroit, speaking of Detroit pizza, the best pizza in Detroit when I was young was the deep dish pizza at Buddy's Pizzeria at 6 Mile and Conant. It was a bar. It's still a bar. It was just a bar, but it was a pizzeria. It's a pizzeria bar, and they made the best pizza in Southeast Michigan. Might have been the best pizza in the world for all I know. Eventually, another restaurant opened, Shields Pizzeria in Southfield, and they started doing pizza similar to Buddy's, their own take on deep dish pizza. So good. And then eventually Shields opened another location, Buddy's opened another location, they started franchising. These new places were all right, but they didn't really have the magic of the originals. And then Jets Pizza comes along. And Jets makes a good deep dish pizza But it's a delivery place. It's a chain restaurant like Domino's or Little Caesars or whoever in your town, your state, your city, your country does a chain of small restaurants doing pizza. And you can now get good deep dish pizza by phone delivered. So the question is, Detroit pizza better than Windsor pizza? I don't know, because I don't know if I've ever had pizza in Windsor, Ontario, in Canada. But I can tell you Detroit pizza is better than Chicago pizza, because I've had that a couple times and that never impressed me. And Detroit pizza is better than New York pizza. I think it's probably the best pizza in the United States, which probably means it's the best pizza in the world. So, here, I'm going to mute for a second. I'm going to hit the cough button, I think. Let's see if that works. So, did that work?
Let us know in the chat if this actually
Yeah, I see our
worked.
levels are really in the red. Hopefully it still sounds good.
Yeah.
Probably from that little crank up that I did earlier to make the signal greater than the hum. Signal
yes.
greater than the noise. So yes, you can get great pizza in Detroit, and you should. You should come get pizza in Detroit.
It's really good, guys.
It's
It
really
really
good.
is.
So, thank you for joining us. As always, show notes will be posted right after the show. The 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir Facebook group is ready, willing, and able to receive your comments, questions, and suggestions for future episodes. If you would like to join the beautiful, happy people who support this show financially, who give us a little love every month, or even just one time, you will find those links to Patreon and PayPal at robertnasir.com, as well as links to the past shows. You can go to the YouTube channel, give us likes on any episodes that you actually liked, because we advocate honesty. But we could use the likes and shares. We want to take this show from a show that hundreds of people see every week to a show tens, 20s, hundreds of thousands of people receive every week. And it's fun because people will go back and listen to past shows.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'm going to start charging Linda some money for all those ads we do. Right now, we just do it out of love because we love her. We love Linda. We love
And
Clint.
she's my mom, so
And
I gotta,
she's
and I
now
gotta
Amy's
contact
mom,
her and
official, unofficial mom.
I gotta ask her for some advice. So
Are you
Linda,
looking for advice from your mother?
Yeah, I am.
Wonderful. So all that's left is for us to wish you happiness and success, and to wish you the most extreme forms of self-ownership, self-responsibility, self-love. Because we really do love you guys. We wish you love. Have an outstanding week. I promise when we come back on Thursday for Life on Earth, and when we come back next Sunday for 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir, the energy level will be back where it belongs. You know, our good friend Holly let us know. We seemed a little, not last Sunday, but last Thursday, we were not our usual energetic selves. So we're going to work on that. We're going to bring it back up. Again, challenging times. It was a great vacation, but my gosh, it left us with our reservoirs a little empty.
Energy,
Yeah, so we're going to bring it back. We're going to bring it back to you because we love you guys too much to let you down. Thank you so much being here. And we'll see you next